How's it going, everybody? Coach Kyle here, and this is a quick recap, maybe not quick, of the Sundance to Spearfish Marathon, and it takes place in mid-September. And I'm going to go over my training for the race. I'm going to talk about the race itself, a little review of the race, and then I'll talk about my race, how it went, and just my gear and everything. I have my gear laid out here too, so you can see exactly what I did for the race. But so the reason I did this event was because in the spring of 2019, I was gifted. I didn't plan on doing any marathons this year, and I've done 3. And so I was gifted an entry by a client of mine to the Brookings, South Dakota Marathon, and that's the first weekend of May, I believe it was, or maybe the second. And I was doing workouts, but I wasn't doing any long runs. I was thinking maybe to focus on like 5K, 10K races for the spring and summer. And so I threw it, I had a month to train for it, and I threw in some long runs. I was doing, 1K repeats, mile repeats, tempo runs, just no long runs. No like 2-hour plus runs. And so I threw a few of those in, and I basically jogged a 3:13, 3:14. Felt very comfortable the entire run, and that was it was fun. It was so enjoyable that I signed up for the Fargo Marathon the next weekend. And I remember like sitting on my computer thinking, I was on the registration page, I had to sign up, I think Monday night. And I'm like, okay, I had just done a marathon a couple of days ago. Do I really want to sign up for another marathon? But I did it, and I'm real glad I did. I ran a 3:16, I think, and that was a little harder, of course. It was much more effortful, the last 10K, but still very happy with the race. And a friend of mine who did Brookings with me the first marathon, and then another friend that did Fargo with me the second marathon, they were both thinking maybe we could try to qualify for Boston this fall. And so we kind of all decided to do this Sundance to Spearfish marathon. I'm going to call it Cement Ridge probably from now on, because it started at Cement Ridge. And I'll talk about the race in a bit. So my training for the marathon for Cement Ridge, I basically repeated where kind of, let's see, in June, July-ish. So July I was in Nashville, and I kind of restarted training, and I started very lightly with a few 1K repeats, a few mile repeats, some short tempo runs, like 3 times 1K, 2 to 3 times 1 mile for the first workout, and then a 3-mile tempo run. And when I say tempo run, I mean roughly at goal pace, so roughly about 7 minutes per mile, plus or minus 10 seconds. And over the months, I built that up to, I think I peaked at 10 times 1K at about 4 minutes per K, about 6:30 per mile. I did 6 times 1 mile a couple times at about a 6:40, 6:45 pace. And then I built up my tempo runs to doing a couple 12-mile runs at goal pace. So I was feeling really good for the race, and long runs. I was feeling really good for the race. I was feeling confident that I could do a 3-hour marathon, ideally 2:57 to have a little buffer to hopefully get into Boston. And I felt really good. I felt very prepared for the event. So the race itself, it's a very small race. It only allows 50 people to enter. And for the 2019 event, they had a new RD. Mike is a local runner. He did a fantastic job. Really, really big kudos to him for doing such a great job with this race for his first time even managing an event. And the main reason I believe that they cap it at 50 people is because there's basically no parking at the top. It starts at Cement Ridge, which is a fire watch tower. The fire watch tower is right up here. There's really no parking. A few people with the race parked here, and parked right up there. And there's a vault toilet, a fire watchtower, and a hell of a view. And that's pretty much it. So it's almost required to be dropped off at the finish and bust up to the top. And if you don't know where any of these locations are, I'm not surprised. But there is a small mountain range in western South Dakota called the Black Hills National Forest, and there's the mountain range right there. And I think these are the Bear Lodge, but this is the Wyoming-South Dakota line. So here's Rapid City, South Dakota, where I live. You may have heard of the Sturgis. That's where the big motorcycle rally is. Deadwood is right there. You've probably heard of Deadwood. And it starts, so there's Sundance. So it starts at Cement Ridge, and it runs on gravel for about the first 11 or so miles. And then it lands, and then it hits a canyon and runs on a very nice paved road down Spearfish Canyon to Spearfish, South Dakota. And the first, as you can see, it's a very, very downhill course. It's about a 2% downhill average. There's a couple tiny little climbs right here, and there's I think it's a full kilometer climb right there. And it's a pretty decent steep incline, and then it's real downhill after that. So two things you need to watch out for if you're watching this video and thinking about signing up for the race is that it's very downhill. There are a few spots that are very, really noticeably downhill. The rest of it is, if you were blindfolded, you could probably tell you are running on a light, gradual downhill, but it's not even close enough that it's like that downhill that slows you, but it does speed you up. Now, if you have historical quad problems, I would not sign up for this race. Running downhill really loads the quads. It's an eccentric. Your legs are lengthening, but they're contracting at the same time. So if you have quad problems, don't sign up for this race. Just don't do it. And if you have ankle problems, there is a side slope to the road, and in a few spots it's quite noticeable. And hip, ankle issues for a few people did happen during the race and there's a couple races down this course as well throughout the summer, and people once in a while do suffer some intra-race injuries. I think it's rare that it extends after the race, but you're just not used to running on a slope like that for 26 miles. So two things to watch out for and just be aware of. Now, otherwise, it's a really fantastic race. Nothing bad to say about it. So how did it go for me? What did I do? So I want to go over the gear that I used first. So let's see. Top to bottom, I got my Austin Marathon cap. And the reason I like this is because it's my lightest cap. It's mesh on the back. You can see it's pretty beat up. It's mesh on the back, and just right up here is canvas. So it's a really light cap. And most of the route was shaded because it's so early in the morning, and let's see if I have some pictures. So there's trees on both sides. So any more? Nope. So much of the race is shaded. I bet outside of the last 5-10K, I bet 75% of my run anyway was in shade. And it was really cool. Maybe 45, 50 degrees at the start, and probably not, 70 something at the finish. So it was running down the canyon. When I was in the sun, it was like, oh, that feels really nice. The last 5K, it got warm, but not enough that it really negatively affected me. So I wore this. I wore my trusty Everything Hurts and I'm Dying top, gifted to me by a few people, by a moderator on Reddit, and that was true for a little bit of the race. My boa cosmic short shorts. I basically only wear those two things for races. Let's see. I had my Garmin. There were a couple spots in the canyon where I lost signal, so it would like the current lap pace would jump up to like a 7:30 and then quite quickly go back down to like a 6:30, 6:50, whatever. But as you can see, it tracked 26.3 miles, so it did a real good job. My phone, I ran with my phone as well, tracked a little bit longer, but still basically right on. So handheld, I used this handheld, and this was different from my previous races. So the 2 marathons that I did in May, I wore a belt, no phone, and I put 4 or 5 Science and Sport gels in my belt, and these are more liquidy than jelly. It's like if you, I don't know, it's hard to, it's rough, it's a little more liquidy than maple syrup. So what I did this time, instead of running with a belt, I filled this with 5 of them. And I had my phone here, and I ran with that. And it was good and bad. So the bad thing about that is it's harder to track how much you're actually taking in calorie-wise because you can't see. And I ended up not taking in as many calories as I thought or as I expected to, as I would have normally. I don't think that negatively affected me, but that's just how it worked out. I ended up having about a third of this left, whereas if I was taking them individually, I would have had all of them. And I'm really glad I ran with my phone. I did listen to music for some of the race, and only when I was alone. I listened to it with the speakers. And that was because I ran basically the entire race by myself. So I did turn on the speaker and listen to my running playlist a little bit. And I listened to it for my tempo and most of my tempo and long runs. And I did that just in case I ended up running much of the race by myself, which I did. So I'm glad I did that. I also turned the Strava on my phone to just have another backup for my pacing, because otherwise I didn't want to be stuck trying to run a 6:50 pace and have my GPS frack up. So it was nice to have two things letting me know my speed throughout the race. This was cool. This is my little finisher. I don't know, maybe this was for first in my age group. I'm not sure, because I got a medal too, but this was cool. I like that. That'll go on the bookshelf back there. What else? Oh, and then I wore the Nike Vaporfly Flyknit 4%, and they're now maybe at 125 miles or so. So I was pleased with them. The only negative thing about these is that the heel collar, that sock-like fit. So before this marathon, I had ran in them I think 6 times, twice for 2 marathons, those 2 marathons, and then a few training runs, 4 training runs. And I think 3 out of the 6 runs I had bled from the shoes. And one of them was me and one of my friends did a run down this canyon from the start to about halfway, and both my heels, my Achilles, started bleeding real bad. And then I did another workout, and then that happened at one of the marathons as well. And you can see, there is some blood in there, and that's from, I think, one run where out of nowhere, I did not expect this, it cut real bad into the side of my foot there. So, and that is partially on me because I typically wear no-show in gingis that are, real low cut. So the shoes were able to chafe me. So for this race, I bought ankle in gingis, and I had 0 problems. I didn't even have a blister from this. And gingis are absolutely the best socks in the world. So I bet I have 15 pairs. And so I bought these for the race. So these went higher up than the shoe top did, and I had no problems. So that, I think, is everything. Oh, and Vaseline. I didn't have any chafing because I really loaded up with Vaseline before the race, so it went really well. So I got my 5K splits here. So as you can see, so the first half, roughly, basically to Savoy. So the gravel is more downhill than the next part. So I averaged 6:33, 6:32, 6:43 for the 5K splits, 6:39, 5, 10, 15. So then we hit the pavement, and I slowed down a little bit. And I did that on purpose because the pavement's not as downhill as the gravel road was, and I was ahead of goal pace. So I don't want to. I just wanted to run like a 2:57 to 2:59. So I slowed down on purpose, and I ended up basically doing 2:40 something or 6:40 something for the next like 10 miles, and then the last 1, 2, 3, 4. The last 5, 6 miles, the last 10K, I slowed down a little more significantly, and my left quad got not great. The one that basically shut down my Fort Collins marathon started to ache significantly during the last 10K, and I was literally I was actually talking to my left quad, telling it to relax and be good and just let me do this. And I ended up slowing mostly on purpose. So I ended up slowing for most of this because I was ahead of goal pace, and I got passed by a guy, and I think he ended up getting second. And I told him, I just wanted we chatted for a minute or so, and I told him, I'm just looking for like a 6:45, 6:50 pace to qualify for Boston, and I didn't need to be running. What was I doing? 6:30 somethings. So I slowed down on purpose for that, from like halfway to 75%. And then the quad got not great for the last quarter. So that forced me to slow down a little bit. But I also was thinking to myself, I'm under goal pace. I don't need to hammer it for the last 5, 10K. The only thing that's going to do is potentially make my quad worse and or make something else cramp. So, I did have some quad soreness in both quads aside from that injury. So, I just took it safe, and I'm like, okay, all I need to do is run a 6:50 pace, and I don't need to hammer it to do a 6:45 and risk catastrophic failure. So that ended up being exactly what happened. Is I slowed down for the last 10K. My quad actually got a little better because it flattens out a little bit for the last 5K. So I ran a 6:50, 6:49 pace, and it ended up being perfect. So I don't know if I'm going to get into Boston. I'll probably find out late this week, early next week, what the buffer is. But I don't expect 43 seconds to do it, which is fine. I've never really thought about going to Boston that much. If I qualify and if I get in, I'll go. But if I don't, it's never something I really strived to do. But of course, I'd love to do it. I know I would have fun. So it was a good race. I don't think I would take anything back or change anything. I don't think I would change anything. No, I got nothing. I hit my goal. I did hope to run a 2:57 something versus a 2:59 something to get into Boston, but I feel good. I'm really happy. Would I do anything differently if I were to do this next September? Would I do anything differently? Again, I'm not sure. I don't know if I would wear the Vaporflies. I feel like the gravel and the slant of the road, these weren't the best for it. I would maybe wear the Hoka Carbon X is probably a better shoe. It's more comfortable for sure. It's cheaper and it's wider. So I think I would go with that shoe versus the Vaporflies. Would I do anything else differently? I would consider. I liked having. I liked having the handheld, but if I had one that was clear, and I would like put notches or with a Sharpie somehow be able to track my intake rather than just guessing. I sipped every mile, every half mile ish. I would do that differently too, but I think I would still run with the handheld. But otherwise, it was a real good race, and I'm very pleased with it. I would highly recommend it. Unless you have quad problems. But if I don't get into Boston this week or next week, then maybe I'll try to qualify again, and I'll probably try in the spring. And if I don't make it in the spring, or if I want to do another marathon in the summer or in late summer, I could see myself signing up for this one again. So it's a great race. Highly recommend it. If you have any questions, comments about my race or the race, feel free to comment below, DM me, and I'd be happy to chat about this race. If you're watching this video and you've signed up for it and you have some questions about lodging, about if you want to hook up and have lunch at the packet pickup, totally hit me up. Happy to help you out, meet, whatever. But that's what I got. I don't think I'm going to get to go to Boston with this race, but I'm super happy to have qualified. That has been a little goal of mine, to go under 3, even though I've never really thought about going to Boston. But very happy with this race. It was a good time. It was good running a real small local event with it was basically like me and 49 friends, whether I'd met them or not before, just running 26 miles together. So it was awesome, and seeing other local runners who weren't doing the race come out on the course to cheer or to hang out afterwards was just so awesome. So if you're looking for a Wyoming or a South Dakota race to do, if you're doing a 50-state thing or anything, highly recommend this race. It's inexpensive, and it's just a nice, local, beautiful race. Spearfish Canyon is fantastic. You know how you do a trail run and it's beautiful, but you got to look at the trail? Well, it's gorgeous, and you can look at the canyon walls and the trees because you're running on pavement. So highly recommend this race. Definitely do it if you're looking for a Wyoming or a South Dakota marathon. And again, hit me up if you have any questions or comments. And as always, you keep running, I'll keep coaching.